Well, I mean, that's why we have a lore expert here. So,
Hi.
hi.
Welcome to Undercooked Analysis.
This is normally we're discussing stuff submitted by our readers for those of you just joining us. But tonight we're trying something a little bit different because not so long ago, Random Encounters invited all of us here to see the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and it was a great time. And I will get into that a little bit. I know I touched on it in previous episodes, but joining us in that viewing is and to discuss it is our special guest, Ash.
Oh, it is lovely to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. We're for those of you who don't know who any of us are, I'm David.
I'm Kaela.
That's all you need to know. And but and we know who Ash is. But for those who don't know, Ash, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Ash, or Fairyfloss.cosplay on most social media sites. I was featured in Random Encounters, FNAF musical, Monster in Your Head. I'm usually pretty active making costumes, and I do a lot of FNAF content.
Oh my gosh, I forgot that she cosplays. we could have gone into a whole conversation about cosplaying.
We could still go into a whole conversation about cosplay. That's not off the table.
I have many FNAF cosplay stories that I feel like could probably fit into this.
Well, out of curiosity, just to get it out of this, do you cosplay stuff outside of FNAF?
Oh, absolutely, yes. As I do a lot of FNAF cosplays, I also do a lot of, most stuff is from other, genres of media. So I do a lot of video game stuff, do a lot of horror, and some anime here and there.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of horror? Now I'm curious to see, because horror is rarely done unless you go to specific conventions, but...
Mm-hmm. I usually do horror, video games, but I've done The Huntress from Dead by Daylight. I've done Franbo.
Nice.
I do Monica from Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh, hell yeah.
I do a lot of Resident Evil. I love Resident Evil. But yeah, those are the ones that come up top of my head sort of thing. But I do have quite a few other little niche horror games and series that I cosplay from.
I just realized my main cosplay that I do is technically fits under horror because I usually do Coraline when we go to conventions. Yeah,
that's true.
Basically I got all the pieces that I needed for this cosplay, like the blue hair, the yellow rain jacket, and all that. So most people recognize me instantly. Although there was a point when the new It movie came out.
Oh,
it had just came out, and I went, and a couple people were like, "Wait, are you Georgie?" I'm like, "No." I think the most wild thing that happened was a family came up to us and they said, "Hey, we want to ask, are you Georgie or Coraline?" And I said, "Oh, I'm Coraline." And they're like, and the one kid's like, "I knew it! Oh my gosh, doesn't anyone watch old movies anymore?" And
no.
That threw me back because I was like. I was 19 when I saw that. Oh my god. It's old. It came out in 2009.
No,
it's okay.
I hate when that happens. Somebody says "Oh, it's so old." You're like, that was just yesterday.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was in 2009 no. Yeah, and then I had to do the math and I'm like, "Oh no."
This is the reality we live in now, Kaela, now that we're in our mid-30s.
David, it's going to be 15 years next year.
What?
2009 is 15 years ago.
Oh my god.
God.
Oh my.
Oh man. Sorry, I'm reeling over here.
Actually, that is one thing. Okay, because the reason we're here is to talk about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Right?
Yeah. That was almost 10 years ago at this point, wasn't it?
The original. Not the movie. The movie.
No, not the movie. Just Five Nights. The original indie darling game that launched an entire franchise.
1,000 ships.
1,000 ships.
I think that was 10 years ago. I think
Actually,
it was.
Yeah, actually, 1,000 ships is right, considering how the fan community puts characters together.
Yeah, it was
no, not pointing fingers or anything, Ash. Don't worry.
I'm not gonna lie. It was wild when the original game came out, because this, like, what it's based off of, the whole like Chuck E. Cheese and all the
Showbiz Pizza.
That was like my childhood and also my fear growing up. Well, like as a kid, I used to be afraid of costume characters, and boy, that does tap into something. I now costume characters don't bother me at all. Obviously, I ended up actually having a job where I had to dress costume characters.
Oh gosh.
So, but that was years ago. But since then, and so, but it is one of those things where I'm like, oh look, my old childhood fear has become a game. What do you know? And I kind of was surprised how popular it became, because I'm like, a lot of the people who really like it are like much younger than I am, and I'm like, but what? This is not nostalgic to you. How? Why?
I know, absolutely. A lot of like the new fandom that's like coming around right now is kind of crazy to me. Like interacting with them and like seeing what they're doing with like this series now online is kind of wild to me. I'm like, you guys have been here for less than a year. What's going on?
What's your origin point for FNAF?
I have been here since the first trailer.
Oh,
I have been watching since the first trailer. I have been hyped for it. I'm proud to say I did not find this series because of Markiplier.
Hey!
I feel like many people are like, oh, I like it because of Markiplier. And I'm like, no, I've been here since the first trailer.
So you're, snapping your suspenders with the OG cred right now. You're just doing the whole thing.
Absolutely, yeah. This is my stomping grounds.
I give you complete credit for that, and I will totally take that at face value, because I will admit I didn't know much about it until it fell into the genre of funny screaming YouTube man.
Fair enough.
That's a whole genre in itself, but
absolutely.
I think it was, for me, it was more like, oh, it popped up on the internet, like, oh, you're on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and then it's like, oh look, here's this new people are posting about it all of a sudden, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. I remember the funny thing is, like, we'll get into the movie in just a second. It's just, I want to talk about, I think it is important to talk about the impact of it, because I can still remember, like, early on saying to, AJ over at Random Encounters saying, listen, this is something y'all might want to touch on. And if you do, just putting this out there, since I seem to be up on these things, if you do, I want to be Foxy.
Fair enough.
And sure enough, once they hit on the idea, they're like, so you said something about Foxy. And I'm like, I'm still here.
Hell yeah, I did.
Actually funny. And well, there's been some Random Encounters things that there was a point where AJ was like, hey, I keep hearing about this Doki Doki Literature Club. Should we look into it? I'm like, absolutely, you should.
Yeah, you were big on encouraging them to do that. Oh,
yeah, and I'm glad I did.
Absolutely.
So Five Nights at Freddy's the movie came out this year, of our Lord,
the year of our Lord 2023.
Like 10 years later.
Almost 10 years later, yeah.
Luckily the fan base is still strong, so
I'm not surprised either, because I will still get. Oh yeah, I still get kids I see at my day job who still who come up to me like, do you know what FNAF is?
You're like, do I?
Do I? If I have to be, for the role I play, I have to be in character. So I try to drop veiled hints, but I can't just say to them, do I know? Listen, kid, I lived it. But the funny thing is, and this is actually part of the reason we wanted to have you here, Ash, is because despite being as involved in this and actually seeing the movie, obviously we don't have the same depth of the understanding of the deep lore that you seem to. So
yeah, because we wanted to discuss Five Nights at Freddy's on this podcast, but then we're like, we don't like. I think I've seen the first 3 games and that's it.
Even then, didn't understand half of what was going on by the time maybe the 3rd game came around, because people kept throwing out theories and speculation, and then there's been spin-offs and
that's totally valid. I think at the point of like in the middle of like the 3rd and 4th game coming out, that's when like it got a little bit muddy, if that makes sense, when it came to like the fandom and like what's actually going on. Because Scott is a man, if we learned anything from the series, Scott is a man who likes to keep secrets. He likes to keep people guessing. He likes to put cliffhangers in his games and then never answer those things. So it really was, we had so much media at that time coming out with the 4 games. It was really just a lot of questions, and some things were like really popular, like, yeah, like totally, that's what's going on. And some people were like, no, that's absolutely not what's going on. And then there were the people on the opposite sides, and it just got very confusing. So I absolutely understand where you're coming from there. That was a wild time.
So maybe you can help us old fogies here understand what one of our good friends, Cleric of Madness, he was a admin somehow on the Five Nights at Freddy's wiki for a bit, despite
oh my gosh,
despite not being a remote like follower of the game. So his running joke has been consistently, whenever we talk to him, he'll just be like, "Who the fuck is William Afton?" Even though he knows, it's just like it's become a running joke at this point.
Yeah,
it's great. So that being said, I think it would be good to help with the context, because I want to like relate like how we felt about the movie
as people
who are tangentially involved and know a little bit about Five Nights at Freddy's versus someone who is like a huge a fan, a dedicated fan of the genre. It's enough that, and I think we buried the lead a little bit here, but when it came to the most recent FNAF projects, when it came to Monster in Your Head, you portrayed a certain specific character, and one I'm actually not that familiar with in Vanny.
Mm-hmm.
So who is Vanny?
Vanny is kind of an enigma. Again, Scott loves to keep things very like hidden and like swept under the rug.
Damn you,
but
Scott.
she is not totally confirmed actually like who her identity is. Some believe that she is Vanessa, because there are a lot of like hints dropped in Security Breach that are saying like, oh, Vanny, Vanessa, that's kind of like very similar. I think Freddy says something in the game along the lines of, Vanny sounds like Bunny and Vanessa put together. Like, as they like find her, they're like walking into her like secret like lair that she's been hiding in, and they're like, Freddy's like, that sounds kind of familiar. I think I don't. How much should I spoil here? Like with the game,
I think you know what
Listen,
I feel like Security Breach has been out a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have played or if you plan on playing.
I am indifferent. I mean, it's nothing against Security Breach. I remember watching it get played. I'm like, okay, there's some neat bits in here. I like the kind of weird future 80s. Retro 80s aesthetic to the whole thing, like the glam mall kind of vibe to the whole thing. That was really neat. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, I'm so far removed from like the established canon and lore that I'm like, okay, I don't really have a huge stake in it. So for me, spoilers are not an issue. Yes, I don't know how you feel.
I am the same way. It's kind of like It's kind of like Marvel. There's a point where I watched a bunch of Marvel movies, but then it got too much, so I kind of jumped off the bandwagon. So if someone's like, oh, do you want spoilers? I'm like, if I start now, it's going to take me years to go through all the Marvel movies. So
that's valid.
I'm totally fine with spoilers.
All right. So I think hopping back to like the subject of Vanny and like who she is, I think even in one of the endings, there are multiple endings to the game. And in one of the endings, I think it has been a while since I've seen this game, like gameplay of this, but I believe she falls off a roof or something.
Uh-oh.
And they unmask her and it's Vanessa underneath.
Oh.
But again, somehow still that's not confirming that she's Vanessa, I guess. Some people are like, oh, he could have been like hallucinating.
What?
Like,
so
what?
there's a way they danced around it. It's like, well, maybe that's not canon. Like what?
Yes. Somehow made it happen that somehow it's not canon for the whole like Scooby-Doo thing to happen and her be under there, and it's still not canon, I guess. But I would say, in my opinion, I think it's absolutely Vanessa. She's also touched on a little bit, if you're familiar with the VR game Help Wanted.
Mm-mm.
It is touched on a little bit there. Like who she is. That's where she gets like her start. I think that's where we saw like the very first like mask of hers that she made, apparently. So she was, I think that her like origin is that she's with like the project that's making Help Wanted, and Help Wanted was literally a game meant to be like, I don't know how to word this. It's like you're supposed to be playing a game. Like that is the story of that game. You are playing a game. You are a player. You're not playing as a character. Game. You are yourself. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that, like, the Freddy Fazbear's, like, that whole corporation made a game to make light of all of the stories and, like, horrors that people had made up about, like, you know, their establishments. They're like, oh, none of this is real. Play this game, though, that we made for shits and giggles.
So that actually makes more sense, because when we saw the movie, there was a point where, like, oh, she says, "I'm Vanessa," and I think I heard her couple gasps, and it might have been you in the audience, but there was that point in my head that I'm like, okay, this is someone that's from the game, but I don't know who this is.
Well, I mean, I was actually going to ask you that, so that's a great way to segue into the movie, because Vanessa was one of those things where I'm like, okay, I get that this is.
Well, should we start by like overarching? Like, what did you think of the movie?
Let's do that. But I'm going to put a pin in Vanessa. I want to come back to Vanessa.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to delve into it. But I think probably should start with how did you feel about the movie as a fan? And then we can say how we felt as people who lay people, I guess.
I think absolutely this movie is very two-sided. And as you can see, if you have seen anything about the reviews for this movie, you can also see that it is very two-sided. It is either the fans love this movie, absolutely adore it, and critics or general enjoyers of just movies in general don't like it. Because I really enjoyed the movie, but that is because I like live and breathe this game, grew up with it. It's like I know everything about it almost besides the books. And then it's like it was very like healing, if that makes sense to me. It was like, wow, we've come so far. Like, I remember when this was a tiny little game, but like, it's cool to see it in a theater now. But I absolutely loved it. I think as a fan, I loved it. But looking at it just in a movie stance, there was a lot of holes. It was a little weird pacing, and not all of the lore in the movie lines up with the games.
I think that was the thing that stuck to me, was like when we thought about doing this discussion was the idea that even as someone who really enjoyed it, like I am not sure where the holes are, because for me, I didn't go into the movie with like super huge expectations or anything.
I didn't either.
I had a great theater experience watching it.
Oh no, it was
absolutely, yeah. If it makes me feel any better, I had like zero expectations for it. I went into that theater expecting it to be horrible. I was expecting them to have ruined it, like have it be really crappy. I was not expecting it to be good at all. And then I walked out loving it. So I was happily surprised by this movie.
Okay, that makes me feel better, because like when I went into this thinking kind of the same thing, like, oh, this is just going to be a cash grab, and I watch it, I'm like, this is, and part of it is definitely the theater experience, but
absolutely.
I think as a movie, it's okay. That's as a general view, like from a general point, it's okay. It's hard. I guess the word is harmless.
It's more enjoyable, and it does more with the source material than I thought they would have.
Yeah,
I personally can appreciate the way it was paced, and that it wasn't just some over the top. Like, granted, this is interesting because we had a discussion, a couple years ago about Willy's Wonderland.
Yeah.
And us and the crew had talked about, how this is the closest we're going to get to Five Nights at Freddy's. But the nice thing about this is it's a self-aware kind of parody. And even if the director claims it's not a parody, I mean, come on, look what's in the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's watching Nicolas Cage beat up a bunch of animatronics is actually really interesting. And if you're expecting that kind of over the top thing with this, that's not what you're going to get. I appreciated that it tried to kind of take itself seriously, even if some of it, if you look at it too closely from an outside perspective, does feel very silly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was quite a silly movie.
Right. And I appreciated that it took its time with some stuff. And there are definitely bits that I would look at and go, okay, maybe,
Yeah.
But overall, I did like it. I thought it was a good time.
I feel like it's hard because this movie, there's this part of my head that's like, this movie should have been rated R. Or should not. Okay. Okay. it's obviously it's PG-13 in America it's PG-13 for a good reason. It's because it is a horror film, but their fan base is a much younger group that's under the age of 18. So they're like mostly. So it's like, okay, we gotta keep the horror without isolating the fan base. So it was a good compromise. But there were moments I'm like, oh, that would have been so great if they were allowed to get a little more. The most infamous kill that I remember is the girl getting like eaten and then chopped in half, and you only see it in shadow, and you're like, oh my god,
that was a good kill.
That was a great kill. I like that it was in shadow, but it would have been nice to like cut to like the body part, and then there's blood on the ground. You'd be like, oh shit, to really get that
surprisingly bloodless film.
Yeah, very bloodless.
Apart from some corpses you see later on, and they've been in there for a few days, but they look all right, I guess.
Yeah,
just buried in among the animatronics.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see what you're saying there. I know. I feel like now it wouldn't be possible. Like, it's definitely, again, touching back that I've been here since day one, literally. It's kind of interesting to see how the fandom has morphed and changed, especially in the age range, I guess, of like the general enjoyers of this game. It used to be like very niche, very gatekept, very like. It was a bunch of like emo teenagers, basically, who all loved this game, and that was like the very start of the fandom. It was a bunch of emo teenagers, and I think now it is mostly children, and that's crazy to me because there are days where I'm like absolutely missing like the old days where it's like, this was actually like a really scary game. Like if you look back at the difference from FNAF 1 to Security Breach, it's a very different scale of horror. And I definitely miss the days where they just let loose on the horror. Like, I think it stopped being scary for me probably after FNAF 4. I think Sister Location was the first game for me that was, like, not at all scary, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And then I think it was, like, from there, it just started getting, like, less and less and less on the horror part of it. It focused less on that aspect and more so on, like, the characters and the lore and, like, catering to the fans. And I think that is something I am a little disheartened by, I guess. Like, I understand, like, you need to keep a player base. Like, that's your revenue, that's your life. Like, I get it. Like, get your money. I respect it. But at the same time, it's like, you know, there's some times where I'm like, I miss when it was actually really, like, scary and, like, dark and creepy. Like, it was a game about a child murderer who hid their bodies inside animatronics of a restaurant. And those animatronics came and, like, it screwed you over, basically, for 5 nights in the middle of the night as a security guard. Like, it's a dark concept, and now you look at it and it's like, wow, it's a big robotic bear that's helping a child survive the night.
Because people want the I think in a weird way the Random Encounter musicals touch on this. They want the animatronics to be, like, almost like what they were intended to be in an unironic sense, the adorable mascots that they're kind of set up to be in when they're not scary.
There is a weird moment in the movie where it's like, oh, they're horror, and then it turns out they're nice, and then they decide, let's build a fort, and it's so out of place.
It's a weird... Yeah.
I think a lot of people are really torn on this subject. I heard a lot about it, and it is especially from the people who aren't as into it. But from my point of view, that scene, I thought it was really like, oh my god, like this is... If you think about it, it is the souls of children. Literally, those are children. Like, obviously, they don't appear as children, but that is how children would act. They'd be like, oh yeah, we're a bunch of kids, like, playing. Of course, like, the kids would want to build, like, a fort. It's the middle of the night. They're camping. Like, they're going out and camping together. Like, I thought that was super... Honestly, I thought it would be more realistic. As some people obviously may disagree with that. They're like, oh, it's so silly. They're, like, building a fort. Boo-hoo. But I think, like, I don't know, I feel like it's more realistic because, again, it is the souls of children that are haunting those things, and people are mad that they're children acting like children.
That makes sense. I think the tricky part is the fact that these are still animatronics that kill people, too. Yeah. So it's like, and then now...
Yeah, how much of it... I mean, clearly these characters, too, they don't... Are they, like... some amalgamation of the imagined personalities of the characters, and the souls and the memories of the children, or is it all just the children? Like, that's what I wonder about.
From
with
my
this
point of
stuff
view,
is like,
I believe it really is just the children. Because without the children, obviously those things aren't sentient. They don't have like memories.
Right.
They don't have like ways they act. They're machinery. But the children are the ones
Right.
making them move, bringing them like quote unquote to life. So really, I believe that it's all like it's 100% like the child that is inside.
Now here's my question: what makes them want to kill people? Because that's the crux of the games is you're trying to watch them and make sure you are not killed by these animatronics.
Yeah. I think in the movie they made it seem like it was like, oh, the drawings and they're being like controlled by William Afton. And
yeah, that's what it seemed like in the movie.
I think that is true in the games as well, because there is a scene in FNAF 3 where we literally see like the ending part of the movie take place in FNAF 3. So it's all the animatronics, and they kind of like you see them kind of have this realization, and they all turn and corner William Afton into the Springtrap suit. He doesn't start in it like he does in the movie, but you see him, the animatronics chase him basically into a corner. He hides inside the Springtrap suit, and then you have like the spring lock scene where like all the springs lock on him. You have this like horrendous like death scene. It was a wild time, but I think it is meant to be that they are like controlled by him in a sense. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, in the movie, they made it seem like the drawings are like how he persuaded them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not totally sure how that would be possible in the games, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think in the movie, like I wanted to, I kind of want to talk about. Well, first of all, I want to talk about Afton.
Yeah,
because it all kind of like that's the whole thing. He's the villain. He's our antagonist, and I mean, we could talk about the stuff they added to the movie. We could talk about Mike. We could talk about his sister, but I'm not as interested in talking about them as I am in talking about Afton, because for one, it's Matthew Lillard.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is, honestly, I'm always happy to see Matthew Lillard and stuff. And of course, they allow him to do like the Scream knife wipe when he's in the spring suit.
I was so excited when I saw that.
That was actually pretty good.
David and I recently saw him appear in Twin Peaks: The Revival season.
Oh yeah,
and oh my god, he does such a good job in that. And that's when it clicks. Like, oh, he actually can act.
He's not just
because in Scream, he's just being a dumb teen, and that's killing people. But and
you hit me with the phone, you dick! I love that line.
And he also played, and then the other role that I know him from is as Shaggy.
Yeah.
Oh, and then also he was another movie he was in was I forgot She's All That, as like I think he was the dickish boyfriend that yeah. I can't, it's been so long since I've seen that movie, but I think he's in the movie too. Same thing. He was a high school kid. Yeah. And so that was the first time I'm like, oh, I get to see him more do actual acting. And I'm like, oh, he actually knows what he's doing. So I was excited to see him. I'm like, it's like, he's going to be in Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay, this might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I thought he did a good job, like, because it's just him. But I think I'm still a little bit like, so again, like Cleric said, who the fuck is William Afton? So here's what I know, what I remember from the lore. So Afton's the guy who killed the kids. Mm-hmm. Afton apparently really enjoys killing people, or specifically children, because that's just who he is. He's Freddy Krueger, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Freddy doesn't really have a motive, as far as I know. He just kills people.
It's
okay. In the original, remember,
Wes
Craven said he wanted him to be, the more worst case scenario, and the studio said no, just have him kill children. Mm-hmm. And and Craven was like, no, well, you don't understand. I want to make this guy evil as all get out, and to me, have him being someone who abducts children is like, and is the worst kind of person, like the most evil kind of thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I agree. But somehow just murdering them is less
With William F., I mean, the idea of these characters is they are serial killers, and then if going into true crime, if you think of serial killers are the most infamous ones, their choice to kill is basically it's just something that's in their head that you can never explain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, knowing what you know or possibly know about Afton, would you say that that's fair? Like that he's just like, you don't kind of know why he does it, he just does it?
Yeah, I absolutely think that's 100% accurate, honestly.
Okay.
Never, to my knowledge, it is never explained really why.
And honestly,
he goes on a murder spree.
Well, and honestly,
he does it because he loves it.
I guess so, honestly.
I think that's probably for the best.
Everybody's gotta have a hobby.
Yeah.
Oh God.
But is practicing the occult also something he does? Because did he know that he was going to make killer animatronic ghost children when he did this?
Not that I believe. I don't think so. No, I don't think anything like cultish was a part of his intended plan.
Okay.
So that's something that the movie deviates from.
Well, Willy's Wonderland. Willy's Wonderland, the killers were into the occult, but that's that movie.
Well, with Willy's Wonderland, they were just killing a bunch of people, and they said, "Hey, what if we sacrifice ourselves to the occult, and then
we become the animatronics?"
That's the Willy's Wonderland. Lore.
Yeah,
there's not much to it.
Mm. But yeah, I was trying to wrap my head around how much. Because in the movie, it seems like at a certain point he realized, oh yeah, now these things are haunted and I can control them. And is it was that a happy accident or? To my knowledge, I believe so. I really don't think any of it was intentional. I think he killed the kids, had kind of a panic moment, like, oh God, what am I going to do? And it's like, where will the police never look? And shoved him inside. I think that was a moment of panic in my eyes. I like to believe it was a moment of panic. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And actually, you gotta wonder, because this is a PG-13 film, in a rated R version, would we have seen some...
Oh my gosh, I so wish this movie was rated R and they went full horror with it. I wish it was so much scarier. We peel back, I don't know, Freddy's chassis and see a decayed child corpse in there.
Oh God!
That would have been horrendous, but I would have loved it,
Yeah.
No, it would have been great for horror. Or even if there was a moment where we don't even see it, someone opens the chassis, we get a POV shot looking out at Mike, and Mike just looks horrified, and there's something vague dripping past the camera, something dark that you can't see.
An arm falls out or something.
Oh,
that would be cool.
Yeah, there's a way you could.
So sick.
Oh.
Yeah.
Apparently, okay, sorry, ADHD again. Apparently, I have heard rumors that they did also make a rated R version, and it's going to work kind of like Megan did, to the sense where in theaters it was only shown as PG-13, and when you bought the
DVD,
physical, copy of the DVD of it, it comes with in the bonus features you can watch the rated R director's cut of it, and apparently it is longer. To my knowledge, there are some cut scenes. Apparently. I don't really know too much about this, but that is just what I've heard around the grapevine. So
interesting.
I believe there may be a rated R version like they did with Megan.
That'd be interesting.
I would be interested in revisiting the movie and seeing what rated if there is a rated R cut. I'd be curious.
Yeah,
just to see how far they would go with it.
Now, if I recall, in the movie, it takes place in 2001. Is that the year? What time?
It's definitely the early 2000s, based on my estimation of it.
90s, late 90s, maybe.
At a bare minimum, 98, 99.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's an interesting choice, though.
Yes, it was.
Well,
because the games are set in early 90s, and if I recall, it is set in early 90s. And then there's times it goes to the 80s, of course, and all that. But it's why not send it in 92, 93? This feels like you're watching it and you're not quite sure what time period this is set.
Yeah, it is a little strange in that sense.
Which would be fine, because there's a lot of movies and stories where it's you wouldn't have guessed it was this time period, but it doesn't matter to the story. But in the games, it does matter, though. There's a reason why.
Well, the other thing is we don't I mean, I guess you kind of estimate how long it's been because Mike was like, what, a teenager, maybe early teens when his brother got kidnapped.
Mm-hmm.
What was Afton doing in Nebraska?
That is a part of the movie I cannot explain to you.
I think we talked about it at the time. Didn't we all talk about it at the time? Like, why in the world was he in Nebraska?
Yeah, no, there are definitely quite a few points in the movie that I absolutely could not explain to you. I cannot explain to you why Vanessa is there, or why she's suddenly related to Afton.
Yeah, can we pull the pin out of Vanessa real quick?
We can talk about Vanessa.
Was Vanessa as weird an inclusion to you as she was to us? Because there was something 100%. Just really weird about Vanessa.
100%. She does not fit in at all timeline-wise. The FNAF timeline is a very, like, complicated, very mishmashy pile of nonsense.
I'm sure.
Really? Nobody has quite figured out the timeline, to my knowledge, honestly. Everybody kind of has a different timeline in the fandom for this game because, again, Scott is a very mysterious man. Everybody kind of has a different one. Sorry.
I was thinking of that Charlie Day meme where it's like the cork board, like Kaiser Soze, where it's like, okay, like with pins.
Yeah, he turns... Because you realize we don't actually know who all the murdered children are, but it turns out that Afton went to Nebraska because he was specifically looking for children named Pepe Sylvia. Sorry, that's a bad joke.
I didn't.
That's what Charlie's ranting about. It's all Pepe Sylvia.
Oh God, it's been so long since I've seen
that went over everyone's head. I apologize. I'll see myself out. This is your podcast. Ash, you have my position now. This is your podcast. Bye.
Oh no.
Get back here.
I've never run a podcast before.
It's not hard.
Not this one, especially.
But I guess the joke is like I could see like fans trying to figure out. Okay, so if this happened at this time, then that means that happened at that time. So that means he was this much. Oh,
that is very accurate. Honestly, the amount of Google slideshows I have seen for people trying to figure out this timeline is atrocious.
Oh man!
I know people who could go on for hours trying to figure out this timeline, and myself, I have not put too much time and care into trying to figure that out. I've just decided I'm just going to take what the games give me and do with it what I will.
I think that's a good plan. I think trying to look at it too deeply, because I feel like sometimes people, I always appreciated the series when it was a little simpler and they weren't all these weird caveats and spinoffs. At that point, it's like
it was nice that there was also something underneath, like that. If you just play the game, it's just you're just a security guard trying to go through and play the game, and hopefully you don't die. And for some reason, you have to control doors, even though.
it's best.
This is the worst.
It's best not to think about how terrible that security system is. It's almost like the man who designed this place was insane. And
yeah, it's like, why didn't you just include regular doors? Why do I have to?
I know, they're like these like mechanical doors.
Yeah, and I'm like, why can't they just shut? Why does it need that much power to shut one or the other?
Yeah.
Why can't?
I'm so sorry. I maybe I did this too because I was thinking about Nebraska. In my head, Afton was visiting a cereal convention. Like in American Gods, or not American Gods, in Sandman. And he was a guest of honor, and the convention happened to be in Nebraska that year. And he's at the con, and he stops and goes, I haven't killed a kid in a while, and he has to go find one.
Gotta go on like a little lunch break.
yeah, just one kid. I'll kidnap him, and when the convention's done, I'll take him back to my restaurant, and well, actually, we still don't know exactly what happened to Mike's little brother.
The brother, yeah.
Yeah. That's right. They're sequels.
Yes.
There will be sequels.
There will be.
But the idea behind the original game, like I said, if you just play it, it's just simple. Try to survive 5 nights and don't get killed by these creepy animatronics.
Yeah, that worked.
But then there is a extra layer if you wanted to look through and get if you wanted to look through the lore, and the fact that there is this unfortunately horrible incident that occurs there was a horrible incident that occurred in real life that inspired this, basically in I think it was 93.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Matt Pat
delved into it, but but it is true. But it is true that that I could see how that inspired it. It was at a Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So,
I guess but yeah, kind of. Sorry, dialing back because I feel like Vanessa. Yeah,
Yes,
Vanessa. I'm still weirded out by her in the movie. I'm glad that that her being there doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense to anyone. Honestly, it does not make sense.
Her performance is also really weird. Like, I don't understand her. I mean, clearly she's someone. If she's Afton's daughter, then she's been through some shit. Absolutely.
There's a lot of things that with her character just feel like, okay, as a police officer, if she's a police officer, I'm like, why aren't you doing your fucking job? Why are you spending so much time here? Go do your job.
I know. I feel like she's so much free time. She's just hanging around.
Yeah. And then not only that, like, she's like, oh, I tried to tell you. I think there was a point I actually yelled out in the movie theater. I'm like, no, you didn't.
Yeah. When she's like, I tried to tell you in my own way. No, you didn't. That wasn't a warning. That was a commotion.
It's like, just don't do it. Like, yeah, play it on. Don't you ever bring your sister back here again. Okay. Change.
I know that scene was like really like, it felt like a light switch was flipped right there. Like, oh, it was a happy, like, sweet moment. And then they walk out and it's like all of a sudden just anger. And it's like, what the hell?
Yeah. What was knowing what Vanessa knows about the whole situation as we go through the movie? Because she was implicit in what her dad is doing. If not directly, then at least by like her silence or whatever. Or her being a cop and covering up for him. Because she's not a very good cop. She's only a cop because she covers up for her dad. Killing people.
What cop stops by and then just check on the security guard and says, oh yeah, just call me Vanessa? I'm like, no.
The kind of cop that's not a very good cop, but a plant from her psycho dad. So
I think it kind of does have to. I think her character a little bit, which I'm sorry, let me restart this sentence because it is not working. I think her character takes mildly from her in-game persona. So her in-game persona was that she was a game dev on the Help Wanted project, and she was like, she watched her friend, I think his name was Jeremy, which was a little strange because there was another FNAF character called Jeremy. He is the security guard in FNAF 2, but for some reason they named another character Jeremy, and he was a game dev for Help Wanted. And she slowly kind of watched him delve into madness, like, every single day he would come into the office and he was just like heavier bags under his eyes, like less talking, got like really pale and like sick looking. And then all of a sudden one day he wasn't there. And she was like, okay, this is a little strange. And she starts to play the game a little bit more and she starts noticing things that are like, hey, we didn't put this into the game. What is this? And there was this like mysterious like code kind of that was there and she couldn't figure out where it came from or why it was there, but it was always silently watching. And at some point, I guess, this is where things get a little bit mushy in my mind, but at some point, I guess, he somehow gained control over her mind through her playing the game. And
this is Afton who gained control?
Kind of. It is a program, or like, it is coded, like a coded program that was inputted into the game that they were making by Afton.
What does I'm now trying to find the connection between these game devs and the Freddy Fazbear's. What is it? Are they making the games that for the arcade or what?
They're making literally the game we are playing in like Help Wanted is the game that they were making.
Oh,
they were literally making a game to make light of all of like the horror stories that were quote unquote created about their restaurants.
Oh, okay.
So the game we are playing in Help Wanted 1, the VR game, is the game that the game devs were working on.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I was like, wait, what are game devs?
Totally confusing. Yeah, that is what they were working on, and she somehow gets like controlled by this program that was inputted into the game by William Afton, and that like code was technically Glitchtrap, who we do see in the games. He is not like a real thing. He's not like a physical being. He is just code. That is all he is. And
that tracks. Okay.
Yeah, and he was basically controlling a lot of her actions from then on out. And I think in the end of Help Wanted, it kind of gets revealed that like, oh, her like think her in-game file, people like, obviously people, fans of the game, they look into like everything. Every picture, every piece of media that comes out, every file in these games is looked at by the fans. And somebody found that her name, I think technically like her file name, Vanessa's, was unwilling follower or something, or like what was, hold on, let me look it up, what it actually was. I think it's something along the lines of she's called the unwilling follower. Let me see. I don't want to get this wrong because people are going to be like, her name's actually this. And I'm going to be like, I'm sorry.
I mean, people are probably already, if anyone who's listening is a big fan of the FNAF series, I'm glad we have Ashley, because I'm sure they're sitting here glaring at us like, why don't you two get it? You know,
I'm sorry, I didn't play all the games. I suck.
I'm sorry. I'm interested in doing other things personally. It's not my particular point of interest.
We got obsessed with other stuff, other games.
Okay. Her name was the Reluctant Follower.
The Reluctant Follower.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was kind of following what he did, not totally wanting to do so. And that's kind of where it left off in Help Wanted, and we didn't hear anything about Vanny or her character at all until Security Breach came out. So that was like, how many games came in between that? I think 2, maybe?
So
we didn't hear anything about her? Sorry.
Is the inclination that William Afton kind of has a cult?
I don't think it's a cult. It's more so he's using her as like a tool, like to work together. Obviously, it's against her will, and she can't do anything about it. But she's absolutely like his like partner in crime, sort of thing.
Okay.
Like, he's using her to like help him with his crimes.
This is very Jigsaw in this.
Yes, absolutely it is.
Oh, that's actually okay. Yeah, that's a better way to.
Yeah, absolutely. It is very Jigsaw.
Because like the thing I guess I don't stop to think about is like, not only is Afton like the guy who, you know, a guy who kills people and wears a rabbit costume that happens to Springlock kill him later on. I'm not talking about the movie at this point. I'm just talking about Afton in general. But he's also like a programmer and a robotics guy.
I guess so. I don't know. Apparently, I think in the movie it talks about like, he had a love for like, he put his two loves together, which was like family friendly fun and like animatronic building or something. I think that was talked about in like the little VHS that he put in. Yeah,
I enjoyed the very dated quality of that video too. That was great.
So much.
But I appreciate the use of a VCR with a
yes. But we didn't really hear anything about Vanessa until Security Breach came out, and it was like revealed that we didn't know Vanessa's name at this point until Security Breach came out. We had just heard of her referenced to as Vanny. And then Security Breach came out and we met Vanessa. She's a security guard. She's a night guard at the Mega Pizzaplex or whatever it's called. They have so many names now, but I think it's the Mega Pizzaplex. And she's a night guard here.
I am trying to figure out what the equivalent is with this Pizzaplex, because when people have described it to me, so I'm like, so it's like Chuck E. Cheese again? And they're like, no, it's bigger than that, because there's like rides and stuff like that.
This is like if the Fazbear genre, despite all the stuff around it, had like capitulated itself and became, or outgrew itself and became more like a. The way I would describe it is like Disney Quest.
Oh. Yes. Honestly, yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. I love Disney Quest.
Just like indoor arcade,
like,
virtual play area theme park.
Okay.
Yeah, like the failed Disney
Quest. When
Quest.
people have asked me, I've always described it as like, think of it as almost like an indoor theme park or like a mall almost. It's very like, it feels like a mall. Like it's usually, I think it's like 2 or 3 floors, and I think especially like the main like atrium area. Mm-hmm. It's very mall to me, but it's an indoor.
It definitely has mall vibes.
Well, there are like those like arcades that are like those big arcades, or like Dave and Buster's or stuff like that are in malls of all places. Actually, there's quite a few of them, so that would I could see that. Like, oh, you have to go to the mall in order to enjoy this Pizzaplex place.
Yeah,
that was quite.
Yeah, I know. It's like a Dave and Buster's, but if the Dave and Buster's was the entire mall.
And also had a 80s glam rock vibe to it.
Uh-huh.
Does the game take place during the 80s?
I don't think so, no. I think it's closer to more like current time when you're playing.
It's the 20-year rule in effect.
What do you mean?
Or not quite the 20-year rule, but the idea that like at a certain time, because like right now, or at least for a lot of the 2000s, people have been obsessed with like the vibe and the culture, the perceived pop culture of the 80s.
Yeah.
So this is like Fazbear Entertainment having a newer attraction. And I assume it's still Fazbear Entertainment, right? Like the company or whatever. They're like, hey, but we're gonna take this thing, but we're gonna give it that retro vibe. It's gonna be like it was a deliberate choice to make it feel 80s, even though it's a modern.
Yes, it is definitely, I believe, more like a modern time in the timeline. I think it's definitely closer to like nowadays. But
Okay.
yeah, we meet Vanessa in Security Breach, and she's a night guard there. And basically, I think we're playing as the character. His name is Gregory, and he's just a kid who has like no background, no nothing. He just kind of like shows up. Somehow he sneaks into the building and gets into like Freddy's dressing room. That makes sense. He just kind of shows up in there, and Freddy's like, "Who are you again? Why are you here?" And we kind of see that Gregory is kind of afraid of her for some reason, and I don't really feel like that's explained. He's just kind of like, "Oh, she's gonna get me," like, "Oh, she's gonna get me," but never explains why. So the whole game, you're basically hiding and running from Vanessa. And I guess there is a lot of like controversy with Security Breach because it was intended to be such a bigger game than it was when it came out. It probably could have used like another year of like development because this game came out and it did not work for anyone. It didn't work. There were so many holes, and the game was very, very rushed by like the fandom. People were demanding that this game come out way earlier than the creators, Steelwool, were ready to release this game, and it definitely showed at release time. Like, it's a great game. I really enjoyed it, but at the same time, if it would have had like another year, it would have been so much better. Vanny was like intended. Sorry, do you want to go?
Oh no, sorry. I was just thinking like, well, when the first few games came out, like the turnaround time for the sequels was like 5 months or something like that. Like the first one came out, and then 5 months later, new sequel, and you're like, oh wow, that was quick.
Yeah, no, that was crazy, and maybe people were expecting it to be something like that, but I don't think people were expecting the game to be as big as it was at the same time.
Right.
The game came out, and many things were cut. There were a bunch of unused like areas in the map. Like, I think it was intended for Roxy Raceway to actually have like a level where you are racing, and it barely got used. Like, you walk through there once or twice in the game, you see like the crash scene with Roxy, and that's it. But it's a huge space. Like, the map is massive. There is a full track in there, and multiple like modeled out vehicles and things that absolutely many people believe like this could have actually been like a mini game, like a racing mini game in here.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah,
absolutely. There are so many just unused features. People found like a bunch of like unused models that were like hidden in the files, and it's just a lot of it went unused. And Vanny, in the trailers, if you go back and watch the trailers, she seemed like she was going to be a huge, like, integral part, big bad of the game. And she had maybe 5 minutes of screen time.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it really was. And because the trailers, again, made it seem like she's the big bad now. Like, we're moving on, kind of, from the whole, like, William Afton thing. She's the one, like, coming up. And in the game, it, like, totally changed. Again, 5 minutes of screen time. She runs past you like once or twice, and that's about it. There's no boss battle with her. There's no like super intense like running scene. There's like one scene, I think, where he gets like locked in the Lost and Found by Vanessa, waiting until like morning when the police will come for him because she has been chasing him all night. She basically catches him, puts him in there, and is like, "You're staying in there until it's morning. I can't deal with you." And somehow Vanny comes out at that point, and you have to like break out of that room really quickly. But that is like the only time that I recall really being an intense scene with Vanny.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, that equally makes her inclusion in the movie, or Vanessa's inclusion in the movie, even weirder.
Yeah.
Just there's just something really off about that character, and it kind of threw me because there was like, it felt like there was no consistency with her, how she was played, and I don't know how intentional that was. I don't want to pin it on the actress. It's more just, I think the writing is really weird there.
Mm-hmm.
I did have, and I know we've been here for a bit, but I had one, there's one big question I've been meaning to ask.
Mm-hmm.
What's the deal with Golden Freddy? Because I remember Golden Freddy being a thing in the first game, and to me, that was the beginning of people like, oh, it's speculation. Like, but we don't. It's just a recolor of Freddy, and then of course, you know, this is what I hear on the side as other games come out. It's like, you know, oh, suddenly I'm hearing about Shadow Freddy and Nightmare Bonnie and Nightmare Foxy, and it's like, who are all the what? Huh? What are all these what?
And the wild part is in the movie, though, and this is kind of now.
This is why I'm asked, because Golden,
all things considered, the animatronics look great. I think for the most part, look really good in this.
Especially, I'm going to be biased here because again, especially Foxy. I think Foxy looked amazing.
Oh my gosh!
In this.
Yeah. And actually felt like animatronics. Like, I had fun watching Willy's Wonderland, but you could totally tell it's people in costumes. But the one thing is, you see Golden Freddy when he goes to her house, or the little girl's house, and for a second you think, oh, this is just a messed up version of Freddy, and because we've never seen this character before, and then later on it's not really made sense to, oh no, this is Golden Freddy, and it feels like the fans would know that, but as a general viewer, that didn't click until someone brought it up, like, oh, that was Golden Freddy. I'm like, that was a different. Oh,
yeah, no, absolutely. I can totally understand like why people who aren't like huge into all like the lore and the games and whatnot might not understand who he is. I absolutely, as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh my god, it's Golden Freddy! Like, oh my god, this is crazy! It's so cool to see him in this game or in the movie. In the game.
Yes, please help us, because my head hurts. I'm like, it's like something.
Why wasn't he golden in the movie? Is he not golden in the games?
I thought he was golden in the movie. Kind of. He wasn't like as bright. It was very dull, but he was definitely a different color than Freddy.
He was like kind of faded yellow-ish. I don't know. I didn't think about it much either. I just know that he was more messed up looking and had like blue glowing in the eye sockets.
I probably should look at images again.
Maybe, but like to me, you're right. Until someone pointed out it was Golden Freddy, I was like, oh, okay. I still don't quite understand, because like I remember in the games, Golden Freddy was just this random thing that would pop up every so often. It was like a rare encounter in the first FNAF. So
yeah, I do remember that. It was so crazy. I love the first FNAF game, but yes. To my knowledge, I think he is like. So obviously William Afton has his own like family outside of the restaurant and whatnot. He has a wife who's never talked about, literally she's never talked about. We know nothing about his wife, Mrs. Afton. But some people speculate that I think we know that she's dead. She's dead. I don't know if she died, but some people speculate that she's Ballora. Not totally sure on that subject though. But anyways, moving on.
Hold on, who's Ballora?
Ballora is the ballerina from Sister Location.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I have zero knowledge of Sister Location, so just know that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good thing I won't be talking about that too much more. It's
okay.
Just Ballora.
Yeah.
Some people think that
thank you for keeping it on the rails.
Yeah. But he had 3 children. Those 3 children were Michael Afton. I think one of them is named Crying Child in the game. Some people think his name is Evan. Some people, he doesn't have a confirmed name. I think his name is Evan. And then he has a daughter, the youngest, named Elizabeth. Oh, she's the middle child, actually. I think Evan is the youngest. Anyways, 3 children, 2 boys, 1 girl. And I think it was on Evan's birthday. Mike, he grew up as kind of like, he was a teenager. He was far older than like the other 2 kids. And it was on Evan's birthday that they were like at Freddy's, like, yippee, big celebration. And Evan did not want to be there. He was terrified of animatronics, like was hiding under tables and things. Like he did not want to be there. And Michael was there with his friends, and they like lifted him up, and they're like, "Hey, like, you should give like a kiss to Freddy," because they're like, like teenagers. He wasn't like a great older brother. He just kind of bullied him.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was at that point that was like the bite of 87, I think.
Oh,
I don't know. Some people might get mad at me and say like that was the 83 one. There's 2 bites, but I think that was.
So I'm over here just like slowly sinking into the floor, like just going, oh my God, there's 2 bites now.
There are 2 bites, yes. One was either by Foxy or Bengal. I think that was the bite of either 83 or 73. I don't remember which one it was.
Oh my gosh.
But there are 2 bites, to my knowledge. But I think the one with Evan and like Freddy was the bite of 87, and it did end up killing him. And that kind of threw the whole family into like a ringer, basically. Like, oh my God, we just lost a child. Like, it was intense, like mourning and whatnot. And at some point, sister location was built. And if you're familiar with the character Baby, obviously William Afton is still running this location. He still created these animatronics, and apparently we know that she was not allowed near the animatronics. She was the favorite child. She was the only girl. She was like the little one. William Afton loved her, did not like his sons. And she was the favorite child. And he told her, like, you're not allowed around these animatronics. Like, don't go near them. And one day she like didn't listen and went too close to Baby, and Baby ended up killing her. So she is in that animatronic. So now he's got 1 kid left, and we know nothing about the wife.
Whoa, back up. Wait, why did Baby kill her? Was there already a kid in Baby?
No, there was not a kid inside of Baby. I'm not totally sure what really happened. There is only like a tiny little like pixelated like cutscene in that game that shows like Baby like doing her thing, like performing and whatnot, and a little girl comes up to her, and all of a sudden like her whole body like opens up, and like this huge thing like comes out of her stomach and grabs Elizabeth. And that's all I really know. It's kind of a scary scene. But there is no like before Elizabeth, there is no soul like.
Then how is she able? How is she able to do that?
I think these animatronics were built to kill.
Okay. Oh.
So Afton built what presumably Afton was already totally into his side hobby of murdering children before his kids were dead, right?
Yes, I believe so.
So this is like that thing. He's like, oh, I'm a family man on the side, and these are my kids. Except I hate my sons because I'm a total douche. But it's fitting. I mean,
think Ted Bundy, for Christ's sake.
I know it makes sense. I mean, he fits he has all the serial killer tropes. I mean, but he's designing these lethal animatronics to just help him with his side hobby of killing children. And
I don't know if that's what their intention was. I'm not totally sure what their intended purpose was.
He's going to sell them to the military.
Can you imagine Baby just in the front lines?
Oh my God.
I'm picturing like mass-produced like Fazbear animatronics just sprinting across a battlefield now, like opening up and making the noises they make in the game before they dive on someone.
I feel like this is less about the movie and more trying to understand.
Yeah, well, I mean, the key part of this whole discussion is because there's admittedly, there's not a lot to talk about at the movie without talking about Five Nights, the games that inspired
That's
them.
True.
Because with Willy's Wonderland, you get that, but you don't have to talk about that. You can talk about the movie in a vacuum. We can't talk about this without a talk. That's why we've been here for a while.
Yeah, because on the general story is Guy has been obsessed with trying to figure out the kidnapping of his brother, and this has led to basically led to a whole failure of jobs. And then along with that, he has this bad history of like his mom died and then his dad just pieced out, and now he's in a custody battle with his aunt of who's going to take custody of
his younger sister.
I am blanking on the younger sister's name right now.
Her name was Abigail or
Abigail. That's right.
Which that's actually here's the thing. That's sad. I feel that sad when you think of the context because you got Mike when he was a younger kid with his younger brother who was kidnapped, and then you have Abigail, who's clearly a lot younger than him, meaning the parents decide to have another child in order to replace
she was a replacement child.
And I'm like, that's so sad.
I know.
And of course it didn't work, so
yeah. I mean, I don't know, there's not a lot to touch on. I mean, that's pretty straightforward in the story.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and it adds a human element to otherwise the faceless main character of the first game. Gives us a security guard to focus on. But I digress. Well, and I'm glad you put that out there because we haven't really talked about that, and I'm more interested because again. Well, I'm more interested, right? Because like you're doing a great job, by the way, Ash. I'm sorry I keep derailing you.
No, it's fine.
But okay, so that's 2 kids down, 1 left that he doesn't give a shit about, apparently.
Yes. And to my knowledge, at some point, like Mike leaves, and I think he must change his last name to Schmidt at some point, and he becomes the guard in the very first game.
Oh.
That is the same Mike. So it's a little strange in the movie why they're not related.
Well, I saw how he reacted when he saw the name Mike Schmidt, and he like freaks out a little bit.
Yeah, but
I thought there was a deeper connection than just I kidnapped your brother.
Yeah, it's a little strange though because like we see Mike's dad in the movie, and it's not William Afton.
I mean,
and those are also not his siblings. We don't know who Abigail is. She is not in the game. She is not in the books. Like she was made up for the movie, and so was the little brother Gregory or whatever his name was. His name Gregory? No,
I don't think his name was. I don't remember it being Gregory.
I don't remember what his name was, but his littler brother is also made up in the movies. We have no idea who he is. So it's basically in the movie. It's like Mike got plopped into some other family, and apparently Vanessa and William were instead related.
Here's a thought.
Weird.
If they want to keep that, what if it turned... Okay, sequel, possibility. What if it turns out that Mike is William Afton's child, but it's from, like... Basically, he's a child from before his mom got married.
Oh, so, like, his dad was his stepdad, and they never told him that was just his stepdad.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then that's one of the reasons why he kind of pieced out, because he lost his only son, and then they had a daughter, and then it's like mom's dead, and it's like, well, this really isn't. Mike's older. I don't care. That's just.
I don't know.
No, it is a little strange. I don't know. That's like a part in the movie that gets me. I'm just like, huh.
So Golden Freddy though.
Okay.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Golden Freddy is said to be haunted by the soul of the youngest son, Evan. We're just gonna keep calling him Evan. Some people can. If you're angry about that, stay angry. I don't know what we don't know what his name is, and I'm not gonna keep saying crying child.
You heard it here, folks. Ash told you to die mad.
Just you can call him whatever you like, but I'm going to continue calling him Evan because that's easier.
That's fine.
But Evan is said to haunt Golden Freddy's body because I guess at that point for his birthday they were at like the very first location, which was Fredbear's Family Diner, which came before Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and that is where like the Spring Bonnie performed and Golden Freddy. Like, they were both, like, yellow. Those are the two animatronics in the restaurant. Those are the ones that performed. That was the one that bit Evan, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. And so that is why it is said that Evan haunts that one. And it's also, some people theorized, actually, it's obviously not at all confirmed, but it is theorized that where he is, like, obviously you see where all the animatronics start in FNAF 1. Like, the 3 main ones are on the stage, Foxy's in his cove. But everybody's like, well, where's Golden Freddy and all this? Some people think he was actually in the kitchen because the kitchen camera was, it was the one that was blanked out. It said, like, we have no video for the screen, we can only have audio. And, people think he was hiding in there. Some people also think that the puppet, for some reason, was hiding in there. I can't explain that one, but anyways.
We're not, since he's not in the movie, we're not even going to get into the puppet.
Yeah, no, honestly.
That's for another time.
She's got her own, like, whole huge backstory that we will not touch on today.
I'm sure.
But Golden Freddy is meant to be Evan, which is also a little strange in the movie. Because, like, the movie does not touch on who he is at all.
Okay.
But in the games, it's supposed to be his youngest son.
It was a little weird how the Golden Freddy seemed to be both tangible but also not tangible. He definitely seemed to be the most mysterious of all the the other ones were definitely more there, but Golden Freddy seemed to kind of blip in and out of existence. Really vanishing when no one was looking. So definitely the ghostliest of the animatronics. If Golden Freddy in the movie universe is even a real animatronic. It could just be a manifestation. I don't really know.
It could be, yeah, honestly. Well, honestly, we saw Corey Kenshin in the movie. He played the taxi driver. We saw that he saw him, at least. So obviously he was very surprised by his presence and he shook the whole car. So
yeah,
I would think that he's like an actual physical being, but at the same time, it is strange that he just like appears and disappears.
With this movie, there's two, again, spoilers, there's two YouTube appearances. You got MatPat and Corey Kenshin, that's his name? And they were people who made this, basically fanned the flames of the FNAF fandom. And there was a point I read a review where someone said, this is not, it seems that a lot of the fans aren't really players, but people who watch YouTube videos about the game.
I think that is absolutely true, honestly. I think most people have just seen other people play the game and not actually played it themselves.
Yeah, I think that's right. There's that part of my brain that I'm like, did I play this game?
I'll be honest, I don't think either of us ever played it.
There's a part of me that remembers playing the game, but I'm like, wait, you bought it though, didn't you?
No, I was gifted a copy.
You were gifted so we did play like a day or something like that. Right?
Maybe. I don't even remember installing it though, but we could have.
Yeah, I just remember playing, but
we played Doki Doki Literature Club.
Yes,
we played that together. As do we.
Oh yeah, it was that game. That game was great. So,
oh my god, it's so good.
And you got
next time we have you on the show, we'll just talk about DLC.
I could go on for hours about that game too. Don't you even worry.
If they made a DDLC movie, then yeah, I'm going to jump on board on that.
I would love to see that. I would probably go in with the same expectations of like, oh my god, they're going to ruin it. So I would hope that they.
Yeah.
I have no idea how you do that because you're going to have to find a way to get them to have the meta horror work because that's the strength of it. It's meta horror.
That's true.
It's fourth wall breaking horror, and I don't know if there's a way you can do that unless you pull a William Castle-esque stunt where suddenly Monica flies over the audience on strings or something.
I just think because
she like appears in the theater.
Oh God!
Just, like all the lights go out, and then she's just like there on the stage.
Oh my gosh. And but the problem is, that as soon as she appears, someone is going to be like, oh my god, there she is, my waifu.
Yeah.
It's because there's one point during that game, because I was the one who bought it, and the character says my name. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell is going on? Oh my god. What? I'm like, and then Dave was like, well, your name's attached to the Steam account, so it's probably why she used your name. Yeah. I'm like, but that's so creepy. Like that.
Are you familiar with the recording Easter egg in that game?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay, the recording Easter egg. Yeah.
I love that. I love that one so much. I tried to get it in my playthrough, and I just could not.
We actually read, and again, I will go back because I do want to put a bow on the discussion of FNAF because I think we're getting to the logical conclusion. But we actually years ago, Kaela and I read the creepypasta that the creator wrote on the show, the one that's hidden, that's actually used in the text of the game, but it's all garbled.
Oh,
it's the one about I killed someone to see what it was like.
Oh.
You remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the creator actually wrote a creepypasta, and that scene with you where Yuri is dead, and then there's like random text.
Yeah,
and it turns out that's his creepypasta story.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I might have to go find that.
And
well, if you'd like, we can send you the
episode that we read the story.
Okay, yeah, I would love to see that.
That was from years ago, by the way. So
I'll find it. I don't think it's on YouTube anymore, but that's okay. Hey, guess what? The whole podcast archive is still around in various locations, so that helps. In sister locations, if you will.
So another interesting thing too. Okay, so when, I'm now thinking of like the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, the ant problem gets solved very easily. Like she just dies.
Yeah.
The wild part is the actress. I got excited because she's an '80s actress. And her claim to fame is a movie called Some Kind of Wonderful, which is it's one of the lesser known John Hughes film, but it's part of that John Hughes high school lineup along with Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and all that. So it's just, but yeah, she was in that. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. Throwing in an 80s actress. I will say the best character in this whole movie for me was that lawyer.
Oh my god, he was so funny.
I loved him. He was wonderful.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Turtle lawyer.
I was very thankful that I stayed off of social media until I saw the movie because I've seen it twice now in the theaters, and the first time obviously I saw it with like you guys and random encounters and whatnot, and I was so thankful I had nothing spoiled for me. I had no idea Matt was in the movie. I had no idea.
Neither did we.
Yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea, like, the Living Tombstone song would play at the very end. I was so hyped. And I went with my friend.
Oh, that was a good choice.
I went with my friend fairly recently, like a week or so ago before my trip, I think, a few days before my trip. And we saw it in theaters again, and he had nearly everything spoiled for him. And it was such a different experience for him, because he's been in the fandom a very long time as well. And it was a totally different experience for him. And I was like, oh God, like, I'm so glad I got the experience that I did. And like, I had no idea what was coming. I think that's genuinely how this movie should be enjoyed by like diehard fans of FNAF. You should go in absolutely blind.
Yeah.
Of course, it's the internet.
This is presuming that anybody who's listening to this who is a diehard fan of FNAF doesn't care about the huge amount of spoilers. That
I'm assuming they've seen it already.
Yes, this is presumably for what you've seen.
If you're gonna, this is one of those things like, hey, spoiler territory.
Yeah, we're just talking. We're freewheeling. This is a free discussion with no script, no plan, and no filters. Anyway,
I'm not. Because I'm trying to go through the movie, like thinking, oh, is there anything missing and all that.
I've said we already. I think we really did kind of touch on just about everything at this point, at least a little bit. Mm-hmm. Again,
that's although the spring trap suit that locks when you just touch it. How did he wear that? And he made that suit, so why did he wear that?
Yeah, I don't totally know if that's, I don't know, they seemed mechanically they seemed a little bit strange in the movie to me. I know in the games they're said to they get faulty when they get wet, so that could be with blood, that could be with sweat, that could be with just general moisture of being in a suit for so long, not necessarily like when they're touched. And I think they look a little bit different in the games as well, because there is a scene in, again, Sister Location, where you're the character you are playing as is inside of a suit, and you have to keep winding the screws because he's sitting in it, and like the moisture of being in it and sweating and stressed out, you have to continually go up along like the two sides of like, I don't know if it's like the faceplate or like what it is, but there's like four little like, it almost looks like they're little like circular things that you have to like spin, like little dials kind of, and there's like four of them on each side, and of course your screen moves super slow, so it's really stressful to try to keep them all winded up at the same time for like 2 minutes. It's a stressful scene. I don't even think I got past that part in the game because it was so difficult, but they look totally different in the games than they do in the movie. So I'm not totally sure. They look like claws in the movie, and that's a little strange to me. I thought they would look like actual springs and just like kind of like coil out of the suit for some reason. but I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
I don't really know what they would look like in the games, but it's not really. They didn't work technically in the movie as the same as they did in the games.
Interesting.
So I can't explain why he thought that was a good idea when we saw Vanessa like touch it with a broomstick and it like snapped.
Yeah, because I'm like, whoa, that feels like oh, you just touch it. Oh God, no. I think it might have been smart if it's like, oh, if they get wet or something.
That's what they said in the games. Like, I think it was literally Phone Guy being like, oh, there was like the spring locks are super faulty, dude. When they get wet, it's the third game, so he has like the surfer voice. But
yeah,
something about moisture sets them off in the games.
Interesting. Well, I mean, Matthew Lillard looked pretty sweaty in that thing.
To be fair, yeah. That is my best explanation to why he thought that was a good idea. My best explanation is I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. It also felt weird for him to throw out his catchphrase. I know that's his catchphrase. I always come back. I'm like, I think sure, but this is the first time we've met you. Yeah. Oh, definitely, clearly.
I will say, although when Matthew Lillard says it, and he puts so much emotion into it, I'm like, awesome.
Yeah, good. If he's not there in follow-ups, I'm not remotely interested.
Fair enough. I know me and my friend Envy, who were there at like the screening with Random Encounters, we heard him say that. We're like, oh my God, he said the thing. That's like his thing in the game. He said the silly thing.
I figured. I mean, that was what was so enjoyable, and that's kind of where I want to close out. I think again, my main enjoyment of the movie came with the people I was watching the movie with. It was such a good experience. It was fun knowing how we were all also involved in our own variation of this project. Mm-hmm. Working with AJ and Gwen and Nate, making their own version of this with the puppets and your cosplay and all of our like just behind the scenes. So we're there having had all these experiences, and we're just throwing out all of these in jokes left, right, and center.
So for those who don't know, or who haven't caught on, because I realized so Random Encounters invited us to a private screening of Five Nights at Freddy's. So we had a whole theater to ourselves. Yeah,
we were literally MST3King our way through the movie, most of it. We were just throwing out quips.
It was like going to a screening of The Room
or Rocky Horror. It was like, yes. It was so much fun when like Matt Pat appeared on screen and everyone was like, hey, he said the thing. And they were like, oh, he said the thing. It doesn't matter how you felt. It was just really funny. And we were all cracking up. And again, even funnier because Matt Pat is involved in those Random Encounters musicals as William Afton.
I did ask AJ after the screening. I'm like, did you know? Or no, someone did. Did you? Or someone asked him like, hey, did you know? And he said, no, I didn't know that Matt Pat was going to be in this movie.
I know.
He has a bigger role.
Most of the media people, like people in the FNAF like community, they didn't say anything for a very long time about like, oh yeah, haha, we're in the movie, by the way. Because I know Daco is technically in the movie as well. There's like a wall in the back, kind of like the door where Mike goes into the security office, like right on that back wall in the doorway, that has like staff of the month, and it has a bunch of photos of people like creators in the community.
Oh.
So, like, Daco was there. I think maybe it was CG5 might have been on there too. I could be wrong, but there was somebody else up there too with Daco. They were like staff of the month. And it was very cool to see them be like, oh my God. Like, they're in it, but like they're little Easter eggs like hidden in the background.
So, do you know about, have you ever watched Red Letter Media or know who they are?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So there's one of the people in this, they have a YouTube channel.
They're a group of film reviewers. Very weird, very funny, niche kind of stuff. Very entertaining, but you got to a certain kind of humor.
Yeah. So one of the people involved has a picture of him when he was younger, going to
Showbiz Pizza.
Thank you. And there's a picture of him next to the Showbiz Pizza bear, and his name is Richard. So he got a shirt that says Dick the Birthday Boy.
Oh,
And it is a picture of him with the shirt that says Dick the Birthday Boy with the Fazbear.
It's like a Polaroid. It's like a Polaroid picture.
Yeah.
And
the funny part is it got shown on the Ellen DeGeneres show at one point, so the picture kind of became famous and all that. But they actually received an email and a video that showed that photo was going to be in the movie as like in the background where like there's pictures of kids, and that picture would have been in the background, but apparently they had to take it down because they said, "Oh, we don't have clearance for this." And even though clearly there's a part of my brain that's like, is it because the kid is wearing a shirt that says Dick the Birthday Boy?
You wouldn't have been able to see it, but it just would have been really funny.
Yeah.
To just have that be a random Easter egg that you could probably never see in the movie, just knowing it was there at one point.
Mm-hmm.
That's too funny.
I just need to bring that up in this discussion because
we have a lot of I know some of our co-hosts would be very upset with us if we did not mention Red Letter Media. So
as a fan, I mean, you would recommend this movie to other fans?
Absolutely, other fans. I think if you really enjoy the FNAF series, FNAF community, you know a fair amount about it, absolutely go see it. You will love it. I feel like if you're just like, oh yeah, I've heard of FNAF, I feel like you probably won't enjoy it as much, but it is definitely still go see it if you're interested. I don't go into super high expectations though.
Yeah.
Fair. I mean, is it weird to say I had a better, well, no, they were both good experiences, but I had almost like a more exceeded expectations feeling for it than I did for Super Mario Brothers, which was kind of interesting.
I will say that I think that feels like an equivalent as well. The Super Mario Brothers movie feels like a movie for the fans.
Mm-hmm.
And I think kids will still get a kick out of it, but it's
currently the 16th highest grossing movie of all time. Super Mario Brothers. Yeah.
Oh my god.
From like a film review perspective, like I don't think Super Mario Brothers is a particularly good movie, but it's a great Super Mario Brothers movie, and it's definitely one for the fans. I think probably I would maybe say the same for Five Nights at Freddy's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a fair statement.
I think if you're a PG, if you're like a someone who's wants to get into horror, or is interested in looking into horror, this is not a bad like, hey, I can watch this and test my horror threshold, because it's a bloodless movie, but there are some like, oh dang.
Yeah, there are definitely some like spooky moments in there.
Mm-hmm. Less jump scares than I was anticipating.
I'm shocked there wasn't. I thought there was going to be a ton of jump scares because of the game, but that wasn't the case.
I'll give it credit for that. Restraint, some restraint in there, which is surprising. Also, a lot more cupcakes being thrown at people and eating them.
I know, Carl had a very big like part in that movie that I was not expecting. I was expecting him to have so much screen time. I was here for it. Yeah,
that was great. All right. Well, Ash, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you if they want to see some of your work, I suppose?
Yeah. I am at Fairyfloss.cosplay on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. I am probably the most active on Instagram if you would like to see more like behind the scenes content and like building stuff. TikTok is probably my least active. I post on there every blue moon, and my YouTube, but you'll find a bunch of vlog style videos to conventions and Halloween Horror Nights and other various cosplay related subjects.
Ooh, HHN, nice.
Yes, my Halloween Horror Nights videos are my two favorite videos that I've made from both years, this year and last year. We go in cosplay every single year, so
nice.
It's definitely very fun to like come along with us and listen to our silly commentary. Yes, but thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And you know, who knows? We may do this again. We might do this again when the next one inevitably hits. We'll see how it goes.
This was really enlightening too, because there's some stuff that the lore of this is so much more deep and stranger than I ever could.
Yeah, we joke about that a lot, about the deep lore. So having you very earnestly tell us about it is actually kind of enlightening. And meanwhile, I'm just sitting here going, wait, but what? What?
I am definitely more than happy to answer any questions about this series, as I have been here a long time. But I'm sure I've gotten a few things mildly incorrect.
It's
Here
all
and there,
good.
people are going to be like, actually, it was this year and not this year. And I'm going to be like, okay, well, I'm doing my
Sticklers
best.
will come out.
Excuse you. I'm sorry that I don't remember every single thing. I forget.
I'm still floored that there were 2 different historic fights in this freaking company. And that somehow they were able to keep their reputation long enough to build a 80s pizzaplex. Jesus. Hey.
It is a miracle they survived.
Hey, if you want to help us survive as long as Freddy Fazbear's, you could always consider checking out our Patreon, patreon.com/creative horror. We have now made the transitions. We're still tweaking a few things, but we are there. Go check out some of our content there if you'd like to hear, say, our choice dregs, which is some of the warm-up stuff we do before the recordings, or extra content now is coming out about the Jameson tapes, which is very exciting, if you're a fan of that podcast. And you can check out the other podcasts on the Creative Horror Network at creativehorror.com or at our YouTube channel. Shows like the Jameson tapes, Darkly Lit, Trick or Track, The Witching Hour, and the now deceased Midnight Marinara. Aww.
Also, we typically don't discuss movies. It's usually like ones that attract our attention, like Five Nights at Freddy's. I felt was one that we've been wanting to discuss for a while.
Our roots are in creepypasta, so I think it was only fair because the creepypasta community latched onto this.
Yeah, but typically we read horror stories submitted by you guys. So if you want to submit a story, you can submit it at midnightmarinara@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a patron, you can also send your stories through there. Patrons get first dibs. Basically, we will read patron stories before.
Yes. But please keep in mind, we cannot read anything that does not have the authors or express permission.
Yeah.
We want to keep this all above board around here these days. So yeah, just let us know if it's your work. If it's not your work, make sure you have either, explicit proof that it is, you have permission to, give for the critique to be there. I feel like this is the point where it's post credits and we have to have a balloon boy jump scare.
I feel like there has to be a jump scare noise.
Absolutely.
I suppose I can do that. Hey, Future Maureen, can you put a...
Good evening, intrepid listeners. This is the Pasta Shade, the host of Midnight Marinara, and this podcast is part of creativehorror.com, a network of podcasts and creators working together to build a constructive community of horror fans. For more content like this, visit us at creativehorror.com.